As we kick this episode off, we're talking about the importance of the lessons that I've learned over the course of this last year. On the lead up to turning 40 this week, it has been a year where I've documented my life. And as a result of documenting my life, I've learned quite a bit. So I thought I'd come up with 40 different lessons that I have learned. And I'm going to start with the first one here. Do what you love and forget the rest. You see, at the end of the day, when I first started this journey, I was focused exclusively on my company Hire For Me. I was hiring for business owners who basically didn't have time to do it themselves, didn't want to do it themselves, and I was trying to clip along and do that, and I just didn't feel like I loved it. I found that I was struggling with it. I was struggling from not only just a monetary perspective, but I was struggling with just getting consistent clients. I did have a great month when I first kicked things off a year ago. I did get some clients. We were hiring for them, but I just found that I didn't love it. And what I did love was batch creating content, which obviously led to me creating all-in content and then really going all in on that. So I found that by doing so, I was way more successful, way more happier, and way more fulfilled by focusing on the right company that ultimately started to give me more of the flexibility that I was looking for. I call this one just cash out. You see, there was many times over the course of the last year where I have I know I should have walked away. Where I got up, made some money. I'm talking gambling here, folks. And I probably should have walked away. I don't know how many times I probably continued to play and I lost money as a result of that. But ultimately, I know that you have to walk away. It's like, as Kenny Rogers said, you have to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. The same thing applies, I think, not just in gambling, but in life. When do you cash out? When do you walk away? When do you decide enough's enough, this is not a worthwhile activity? I had to do that numerous points throughout the course of this past year, and I think I'm better off for it. Sometimes I wish, though, I probably would have cashed out sooner. It's progress over perfection. Sometimes early on, I would spend countless hours trying to get every single detail right, whether it would be for my own content, something on a website. I spent many a night probably working way too late and not giving myself the rest that I needed. And so I had to eventually realize that sometimes 80% is good enough. And you don't need to be perfect all the time. Now, when it comes to clients, obviously that's a different thing, right? Clients, you want to sit there and do the best possible work you possibly can. You don't want to shortchange them. They're expecting for as close to perfection as possible, but you have to be realistic and you have to, choose your spots more than anything else. So like I said, it's progress over perfection. It's about moving in the right direction. Not everything's going to be perfect. And the sooner I got rid of that, I think the more free I felt to be able to move forward, especially when it came to what I was doing. The no asshole rule. Over my career, I've worked with a lot of people, and I've had a lot of leaders and people that I just generally worked with across various industries, departments, and a lot of them were assholes. So when I created my business, I said, I don't want to work with assholes. And the challenging part was that sometimes you do, whatever you can early on to try and get business. But when I created all-in content last September and officially launched it, I had said to myself, but I never put it on camera, but I'm going to say it now, I wanted to have a no asshole rule. I don't want to work with people who are not good people. I don't want to work with people who take advantage, who are shady, who just generally treat people like crap. I'm really proud of the fact that the people that I work with are good people, that they are people generally I think of integrity, who are people who I'd want to spend time with if I was hanging out with them socially. Really, I think that's an important part, and I want to continue to maintain that moving forward. That it hasn't happened yet, but I'm sure it will. I will probably have a consultation with somebody, and I will meet them, and they might be interested in content with me, but they might not be a fit. And because they're not a fit, I'm not going to move forward just because they're going to pay me whatever number of money. I have to work with good people. And I think if I don't, it's going to probably be draining. So I'm going to stick to my core value there. Constantly evolve. I think over time, I have evolved a lot. I think personally, professionally, in a lot of different ways. And I think over the course of this past year, my business has evolved a lot as well. When I first launched, even what I did with all in content, my website looked very different than it does now. And it's going to continue to look different. Like I'm constantly tweaking and changing. And the more I evolve, like the better I get. But it takes a certain level of intentionality, I think, to evolve the right way. And I'm so glad that I'm a person who is open to change and I'm not stuck in my ways, because there were things that I thought was a great idea that I was going to move forward with, and then getting some feedback or seeing it in action, I realized this is not what I need to do. I need to pivot, I need to evolve, and it's a better, I think, experience overall as a result of it. Just get walking. When I started this journey, my goal was to improve my health, my wealth, and my overall self. On the health front, while I have improved, when I think about a year over year, I could have got moving quicker towards my goals. And by that I mean I could have been walking more consistently. I started strong and then it fell off. I used every excuse possible. And in recent months, I have been successful. And as of today, like I weighed myself, and from 3 months ago till now, I'm down 15 pounds, which is great. Obviously, there's more that I need to do. But if I was consistently walking and I think just getting out and moving all along, all year long, I could have been more closer to the goal that I wanted. I fell short of where I wanted to be from a goal perspective this year. I, again, worked really hard the last couple of months, but for the full year, I did not. So I know that there's power in walking, and I'm going to continue to do that as I move forward. No one will save you. As a solopreneur, I had to realize early on that it's all on me. If I don't put in the work, nothing's going to get done. If I don't make a sale, nothing's going to get done. So there were times I went through periods of not being motivated, maybe not fully being my best self, and I didn't always capture that on camera. But it happened. And so there was times where I was worried, I was stressed out, because I wasn't being as responsible as I could or should have been. And as I realized that I need to change that, again, this was, oh, thank God, early on, things started to shift. But you have to build out that process for yourself and realize that no one's going to save you, especially as a solopreneur. It's all on you. It will work out. I can't tell you how many times I questioned myself over the course of this past year. I was stressed out. I was worried. I was concerned about what are we going to do financially, because when I first launched All In Content, I knew that this was a game changer. I knew that this was a business that could have some success, but I wasn't getting any clients. Like, yes, I had pre-existing clients that I was working with, and that helped pay the bills. Great. But new people were not knocking on my door. They were not coming in mass and wanting to work with me. Again, a handful would. People who already knew me. It took time, and there was many times where I know Raquel and I had conversations about, do I need to pivot? Do I need to do something different? And sometimes I would. And there were many times in my head where I thought, I don't want to work for someone else. I need this to work out. And I think it will. I think it's just going to take time. And lo and behold, we're looking at a situation here in August where we're sold out. September looks to be probably a great month. I am really, optimistic about the future, where we go. But there were some times where it was bleak and I was worried. But I had to remember, it will work out. In your business, when I first started batch recording content, I can't believe I actually got people paying me to do this. But I used a cell phone. That's it. I was recording everything on a cell phone, and then I got the cheapest tripod I could get, because, again, I didn't want to put a ton of money into this. I was using, I have them here, $40 lapel mics. Not even 40, probably $30 lapel mics, like these little things here. My gear was so basic. Somehow, people started paying me to do some of this stuff. Over time, I had to level up, and it was an investment in my business. And so I remember the first camera that I bought, the Sony camera that I have, I was super nervous. I'd never really purchased anything that large before in terms of equipment for my work. And so you're talking like I don't know, I think it was like $1,500 to buy that camera, and this small little vault logging camera that I spent, I'd say, months researching. And I bought that. And then it literally was probably, I'm going to say maybe 2 months later, maybe 3 months later, is when I bought the big camera that I'm using now, which was a hell of an investment. And everything since then has been an investment, whether it's been the handles, whether it's been the monitor, the better tripod that it's on, the rig in general. Like, it's been quite a bit. Now, like, I've basically got a camera that, if you add all the accessories and everything towards it, it's about $10,000 to $12,000 worth of stuff that I've added around this camera, including the camera itself. So I'm investing in it, and what's happened is it's leveled up the quality of the content. I've also invested in better software over the course of the year. It's amazing how many different software programs I signed up for, but I'm constantly just investing. And whether it's investing in courses and technology, I'm looking at investing in some editing companies still right now, which is going to be a huge investment. Like, the investments pay off. And as a result, you're able to alter your prices. You're able to, be more profitable as a result. And I think that's huge. Consistency is key. When it comes to content, I have found that the more consistent you are in terms of posting content, the better it's going to be for you. So there's times where I've taken breaks on certain platforms, not posted as much. There's times where I've kind of tried different things with different clients, and the consistency piece is the most important part. Show up every single day, post content every single day. That's how you're going to ultimately win the game. When you don't post and you post inconsistently, like a lot of people do before they start working with me, they're struggling because they're struggling to find leads, they're struggling to find employees, they're struggling just to be seen because they're not showing up. Show up. That's all you got to do. The best way to do that, I always say, is to schedule your content. Yes, there are people out there who say that the algorithm will ding you if you are scheduling your content, but it's impossible to continue to pump your content out there without the power of scheduling. Because here's the thing, life happens. I've got some clients where I cannot schedule their content because the system just doesn't let you do it, or there's something wrong with their account, so I'm manually posting. The problem with that is that it can be challenging to be consistent because I'm a busy guy. So to be consistent, you have to post your content at a consistent time, and using software is going to help you do that. Job cost to figure out your profit. I did not do this soon enough. It took an exercise of Raquel and I sitting down and crunching the numbers to figure out, what does it truly cost to do a batch recording session? When I sat down to figure out everything from how long does it take to come up with ideas? How long does it take to record that content, upload that content, back up that content, edit that content, put on a thumbnail, do captions, upload it again to Google Drive, share that with the person, sometimes schedule that content on their behalf, I came to realize how not profitable I was, and still am, with some clients who are kind of grandfathered into some longer deals, because it actually costs a lot to do the work that I do, especially the number of videos that I did. There were multiple sessions that I did over the course of this year where I lost money. I lost money on the fact that we did too many videos. I'm not going to name the names, but there are some sessions that I did where we recorded so much content that it took so long to do every aspect of it that it was a loss right from the get-go. And so I think, having learned that lesson, I know now how much I need to charge and how many videos do I need to do per session to at least break even and to still have a good experience. I can't do the crazy sessions that I've done before, right? Going and trying to push and advertise that you do 100 videos in a day is great from a marketing perspective, but it's not cost effective to me unless you're paying a lot more money. And I think that was an important lesson to learn. So I could almost say there's another lesson here in a sense too, but it's the thinking that, like, quality is more important than quantity. And so when it comes to job costing, sitting down and figuring out how much does it cost for you to fulfill is important. And then you can price everything around that. That's what I've learned. Next lesson is fuck the conventional. Don't go with the boring path. And by that I mean, over the last year, I've done more networking. I've connected with more people, and instead of doing the traditional follow up, where I just send an email off and it's like, oh, it's nice to meet you, we can connect again or whatever. I decided to start using video, and that video follow-ups for the people that I did that with was massive. It's not conventional, it's not what normal people do, but it was huge. I found that I was able to break past the idea of just emailing someone and getting ignored by sending a video follow-up. I was able to win business. So don't go the traditional route. Fuck the conventional approach. Do what stands out. I still struggle with this next lesson, but I definitely have picked it up a lot more in the last year. To not let others live rent-free in my head. You see, there were many times throughout my career where I would be frustrated, I'd be upset, I'd be disengaged, I'd probably be difficult to work with because I let somebody get to me, and then I would think about it all the time. I would often be called, upon by Raquel and other people saying that, I'm living in the past because I would let all these other people and situations kind of just stay here. And it did me no good. So the more that I was able to move past it, to let go, to not worry about, the opinions of others, the, stuff that might have happened, the more free I felt, the more like me I felt, and ultimately the more productive I became over the course of the year. Don't let people, drag you down or pull you back into the past or live rent free in your head. Get around new people. You see, over the course of the past year, I have met new people that have been outside of the space that I've been in. It's been through networking that I've had new opportunities come my way. I've had new customers, new clients as a result of just being around new people. For the longest time, I think we kind of can get ourselves stuck and we only see the same people, and that means we only talk about the same things. You got to get around new people. I look at certain aspects of my career before I started doing what I'm doing here now. If I would have just only hung out with or talked to those same people, I probably wouldn't grow. Get around new people. You got to be accountable for yourself. At the end of the day, every decision I make, whether it is something that works out in my favor or it goes awry, it's on me. And there were times where I definitely made mistakes, and I need to be accountable for those mistakes. And I need to be accountable for the decisions or the lack of decisions that are sometimes made. Let's take the health front. I know full well that I had some major goals that I wanted to achieve this year, and I did not perform to my best. I need to be accountable to that. So even though Pushing 40 comes to an end next week, I am going to be continuing to move forward. That's why we have set up a workout plan for when we're in Vegas. That's why we've committed now for a full year of personal training and trying to get better because I want to move forward. I did not find that I was accountable, especially on the health front and being my best self. So I have things to work at, and ultimately it's on me. But from a business side, I also realize from an accountability front, I have to continue to be accountable not only to myself, but also to the clients that I work with and giving them my best as well. And part of that is investing, obviously, in the right equipment, in the right software, and right people. And as we continue to grow, we're going to be looking to bring on more people to help us. And that level of accountability is important because it rests with me. No isn't forever. There were times throughout this past year where I basically got a no. Sometimes people ghosted me, but sometimes people said no, they're not interested. And then they came back, maybe weeks later, months later. And so I had to remember that no is not forever. It just might not be the right time. And sometimes circumstances change. Sometimes people are waiting for a project to close up before they can pay, or they're waiting for an internal hire to come on board who can ultimately help with this process. But no is not forever. Just because someone says no doesn't mean the door is shut, essentially. You have to maintain, I think, a good rapport and relationship in the event that they decide to come back at some point. The more you learn, the more you earn. The more that I have been doing, I'd say, self-education, the more successful I have been over the course of this past year. And I know different parts of my career as well, right? Like, I'll give you a great example. I invested in some poker training back in 2022, used that, and I made $158,000 that year just in poker and gambling. So this year, when I sit there and I think about, the money that we've been able to bring in with all-in content, as I have gone through and learned, whether it's been the courses that I've bought or YouTube, I'd actually even say that YouTube courses themselves have been, not even courses, YouTube videos, like free content has been game changing for me in so many different ways. I've been learning new ways of how to edit in CapCut. I've been, watching videos on how to price certain projects, whether it's been photography, whether it's been videography, how to do RFPs the right way. I've been able to get more business and level up, I think, how I perform through watching YouTube. So I say here, the more that you learn, the more that you earn. And it's definitely been one of those years where that has been the case for sure. Avoid shiny objects like the plague. There's so many that have happened over the course of this past year, and I'm glad that I've avoided a lot of them. Some of them, it was like painful to extricate myself away from some of them as well. Like, I think about, there's business opportunities that I turned down, partnerships that people were really pushing hardcore for me to be part of, and I didn't do it because I said it's going to be at the expense of what I'm doing now. So avoid shiny objects. You feel it? Chase it. I have not done as much gambling this past year as I normally have, right? In other years, I'd be gambling a lot. I'd be playing lots of poker, going to the casino often. This year, I didn't really go a lot, and I didn't play online as much as I had in previous years. Now, I still, though, made money when I was gambling. And so this year, I would say in the last year, it's probably been one of my more slower periods in recent years, and especially in the last 5-6 years, I would say. But like, I probably made about $30,000 through gambling. And if I felt something, I did chase it. And there was times where I would go and I would push because I would think that, I think that card is coming. And, when I put it out into the universe, it sometimes did. Or that number was going to hit. It might take time, but you're chasing it. And when it does, it pays off. So while it hasn't been a crazy wild ride, really, in terms of a gambling year, when I had those moments and I felt it in my core that it was going to pull this through for me, it did. So I'm going to continue to listen to my inner voice when it comes to not just gambling, but I think like business and life in general. Trust my instincts. The next lesson I learned that was really important, and I knew it from beforehand, was about freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment. Find the 3 Fs. If I can find a way to be ultimately fulfilled, that's going to come from the idea. The next lesson that I learned that was so critical was about the 3 Fs: freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment. At the end of the day, the only reason that I created any business or even just left working for someone else is so I could have freedom. Freedom to do what I want, when I want, which ultimately gives me that flexibility. The flexibility to be anywhere in the world, to work when I want, not be constrained by somebody else's time that's thrust upon me. And ultimately, for that final F, fulfillment, to do what I love. And when I found that I could do what I love, that's when everything started to change. Not everyone is your customer. There were many people that I talked to over the course of this past year about the opportunity to work together. And I would have this inner voice kind of feeling that I'm like, oh, this is not somebody I really want to work with. And luckily, I think, for the most part, actually everybody that I had that feeling with, I'm not working with. And they've probably all ghosted me in some way. And so it's been pretty good to kind of realize that, yeah, not everyone that I talk to is truly my customer. They might have the budget. Great. But maybe they're not the right personality. Maybe they're not the right person. Like, I operate in a model where it's like, I will batch record content with you. I will schedule that content for you. But if you're someone who wants to review every single post before it goes live, I'm probably not your guy. And there's some of those people that I did talk to who that's what they wanted. They wanted to review everything. And it's like, okay, well, we're probably not a fit. I need people who are going to trust me to do what I do best. and you can focus on your business and do what you do best. So I think that was an important lesson to focus on this year, is not everyone is your customer. Again, early on in your business, you might want to try and say yes to everybody, but eventually you can't do that. All sales are won in the follow-up. By that, I mean, like, you have to follow up with people after you talk with them. You might, pitch somebody an idea and then you don't hear anything. Well, sometimes people get busy, right? And if you're not going to follow up with them, what's the point of even pitching them in the first place? I was able to win business this year because I was following up. I was able to create new opportunities because I followed up, whether it was going and just talking to somebody at a networking event saying, hey, we had a conversation, let's talk again. Just following up has been huge for me. Can I get better? Absolutely. I think as we move forward, we're going to continue to get better as we build in different processes and systems. But following up, I think, has been able to be a game changer. And it's so simple, but I think so many people forget it. That's a key lesson that I want to make sure everyone knows. You never know who is watching. This lesson has been massive over the course of this past year. There has been people who have reached out to me who have been what I call lurking in the background. They have been watching my content, whether it's been what we've done here on Pushing 40, whether it's been just the social media content across my channels, whether it be across what we do with all-in content. They're watching, they're quiet, they're not really interacting, they're not making comments, they're not liking, they're not sharing, they're not really there. I don't know who they are. But then eventually somebody reaches out and asks a question or wants to hop on a call to discuss the opportunity to potentially work together, or they've expressed that interest at least. That's been pretty cool. You never know who's watching, so that says to me, just keep creating content. That's how you win the game. Always have a backup plan. This one is still a sore spot for me. But if you remember, probably about, I'd say 4 or 5 months ago, we were doing a video session and it was going along great. I had just bought this new camera that I'm recording on now. Like, this is the first time I'm ever using this camera. And what happens? The tripod that I'm using gives out and it topples over. Kind of caught it, kind of didn't catch it. And turning it on, it's not focusing, it's not working. I was rattled beyond belief because I'm like, this session is going so well, but it doesn't work. So I needed to rely on my backup plan, and thank goodness I had brought a secondary camera, so I was able to continue on with the session. And we were able to produce some great content, not as, strong as I had hoped, but still really good content. And now for this reason, I'm always bringing multiple cameras to any sort of session that I do, because you never know what takes place. I don't want it to happen again, but because it did, I'm now more prepared for it. So always have a backup plan. A lack of communication is absolutely unacceptable. I complained a lot over the course of this past year on camera, and I put it out on social media as well, about being ghosted, about being kind of disrespected in some ways. There were many people that I talked to who gave me a verbal yes and then disappeared. There were many people who wanted to move forward, but for whatever reason just fell off the face of the earth. I look at it as a sign of disrespect, and while I shouldn't get so worked up on it because it's part of business, it still was frustrating. But I look at it as my core values, one of them at least, is on communication. And so I want to make sure that if I'm not moving forward with something, I'm not going to be like other people. And so I took it upon myself to make sure that if someone reached out and was interested in meeting with me and I took that meeting, I'm letting them know that I'm not moving forward. So they're not sitting there thinking and waiting that, oh, Chris might be signing on as a client. I don't want to give anybody false hope. So that was a big lesson for me that I wish more people would adopt. If they're not interested, that's cool. Just let me know. But I'm making sure that I'm accountable to myself and to deliver the values and expectations that I kind of would hope for other people to be able to have. And if I'm not interested in something, I'm letting people know. Slow build. When I first started gambling back, well, I guess now almost 20 years ago, I guess it would be, my dad and I would go to the casino and we came up with this thing called the slow build. And it was this way for us to just kind of remind ourselves that you don't need to go for the big score. You sometimes just need to win. So I'm holding some chips in my hand here as an example, right? So it's like you put, one chip on the spot versus putting your whole stack on the spot. I think the same thing applies in business, and I've been reminded of it this year as well. I may want to go for the big swings, right? And I may want to go and try and make all the money in the world and chase opportunities that I know I probably could do, but should I do it? Or should I take the better route of the slow build where add on a couple customers, add on some new equipment, then move to the next level? I've been trying to incrementally get better versus just boom, just go and do everything. And I feel like it's been the best play because one, the swings are not as bad. And I'm not even talking from a gambling perspective, just a business perspective. Like the swings are not as bad. It's more sustained growth as well over time. It doesn't feel like this yo-yo effect that can sometimes happen too. So slow build, I think, when it comes to doing your business is important. I have worked for companies that have experienced tremendous growth, and then the reverse of that happens where they're not able to sustain that growth, and then it gets really scary really fast. I don't want to go through that, so I would rather grow incrementally month after month versus go 100% growth one month and then go down to whatever percentage and then have negative growth or be all over the place and not be able to fulfill. So slow build is the way to go. Another lesson that I learned that was so important over the course of the last year is to not go on tilt. And by that, I mean, don't go and, piss away all your money and make bad decisions if you're upset. There were many times over the course of, I would say, the previous number of years where I'd be upset about something. I would be frustrated by someone. I'd be frustrated at different parts of my career, and it would kind of rattle me. And this past year, there was a couple of moments where I did get frustrated. I was getting upset because I was maybe ghosted or somebody didn't pay me on time. But I had to look at it as, look, you can't make mistakes and you can't do the wrong thing because that's going to get you into a bigger hole. So in the poker world, they use the word tilt. That's when you start losing a big hand and then you continue to make bad decisions and you're emotional. The more emotional I was at different points in the year, especially early on in this journey of documenting things, I think the less successful I was. The more that I've been more focused on just being present and in the moment, and whatever happens, happens, the better things have been. When it comes to running your business, one lesson I've learned that's really been important is that getting paid by check sucks. I did a opportunity that was really good. It was an opportunity to kind of connect, and I thought it was awesome, and I was getting paid for it. It was great. But they only paid by check. The unfortunate thing is it took almost 2.5 months to get paid when everyone else pays by e-transfer or credit card. And I will say now, moving forward, I will not accept checks as a form of payment. It's just not worth it. It's just such a pain in the ass to deal with. And so whenever possible in my business, I want to eliminate those moments. And so don't get paid by check. Let go of the past. It's another key lesson that I think I've really come to realize over the course of this past year. As I look back and reflect on different aspects of my career, I started to realize that what happened before doesn't matter anymore because it's already happened. You can't change anything. I look at different moments in my career where I was frustrated or I was annoyed with certain things that happened, situations that were basically outside of my control. The more that I realized that if I just let go of the past, I can move on. And I can move on quicker, faster, stronger, and ultimately just be happier as a result. Prepared for anything. In the business that I'm in, a lot of stuff can kind of go wrong, right? You can maybe forget to pack something that's critical for a video shoot. Maybe there is something that happens in the area that you're recording and you need to pivot in some way. I had to pivot multiple times throughout the video shoots that I would do. Like, we recorded thousands and thousands of videos in the course of this past year. And there's times where I had to pivot how I was going to, maybe get a particular shot or, scrap ideas on the fly because they just didn't work. Like, always having ideas flowing and going and being prepared has helped. And so When I have somebody who's maybe super nervous of how to get on camera, I have to have another way to elicit that content from them. Like, they're paying me for the session and they're not, comfortable on camera. Well, I got to find a way to make them comfortable. So I, again, have different tricks I've been able to pull out of the bag, really, to make things work and to pivot when I need to make adjustments. And I think that's been super helpful. Not everyone can lead. This is a lesson that I've had to learn, I think, the hard way. So when I first started this Pushing 40 series, I was focused on my hiring company, Hire For Me. I was hiring for small business owners. What I've come to realize, looking back now on it, is that many of the people that I hired into different roles for different leaders and companies struggled. They struggled not because they weren't great fits, because they were. They struggled because the leaders that were running it, they just weren't people who could lead and provide the training, the resources, the support that was required. So therefore, these people were not set up for success. And I look at it as probably a contributing factor to why I no longer focus on the hiring business, because I could do all the great things, bring in all the right candidates, but if someone's not setting someone up to win, it's ultimately going to lead to a bad situation. And I look at it from myself. There are times where I probably shouldn't have been the leader of certain teams that I was, and it was probably to the disservice of the employees that I worked with. So now moving forward, I'm really, really hesitant on trying to add people if I'm not going to be leading the right way. Next lesson is take time to reset. There were many moments over the course of this past year where I felt like I was starting to get burnt out. I was getting maybe stressed out. I was getting somewhat frustrated. But then I had to remember sometimes you need to pause, slow down before you can speed up. So that could be something as simple as going for a walk. That could be going in the pool. Sometimes it meant going on a vacation. Whenever you can reset yourself, you are going to set yourself up for long-term success. Working matters. When I first started Hire For Me, I made a couple posts, put together a website, and I started just pumping out content thinking that's how you're going to get business. I didn't factor in at all the importance of networking. When I started networking, that's when I started getting people interested in what I did. I was able to have those conversations because I didn't really know a lot of people in this area. So when I eventually launched All In Content, I went, to use my words, all in on networking. I started attending multiple events. I started showing up every single day, sometimes 3-4 times a week, just networking. And yeah, you might run into some of the same people, but when you do that, that sometimes leads to opportunities. And it led to great opportunities to get myself out there, to get known, to get people to know, like, and trust me, to show them that I guess I'm consistently showing up, and therefore new business came as a result. So networking was a game changer. No money, no service. This was probably one of the toughest moments that I had in this past year. I had a client that I'd worked with for a long time, and unfortunately, they were not able to pay me consistently on time. It was late. I was always chasing, and it was a real struggle. And Raquel and I, got into some arguments on it, where I had, wanted to do the best I could for the client, but at the end of the day, I still need to get paid. And she reminded me that I need to think like a business owner, and I can't operate as the charity. If I'm doing a lot of work and traveling and, recording content, I need to get paid for that content. And in this instance, I wasn't getting paid consistently on time, or was really worried at all for some of the work that I was doing. So I had to, part ways with a client, and it was tough. It was difficult for me to do, but I think it was probably the right decision all around for them, for me. And, I had to remember, again, this is not a charity. We are trying to run a business, and I have expenses too. And the sooner that I was able to move on past that situation, the more it opened me up for other people to work with who did want to pay me for my services. So again, no money, no service. Sometimes people need time. When I first started running my content business, and I'd start to meet with people, and they'd express interest, and we'd talk, and then they needed time to think about it for whatever reason, I took that as a bit of a, I don't know, personal offense, I guess. And I had to realize that I'm talking high ticket prices here. People need time. They need time to make that decision because it's not an easy decision to make. And so I think being able to have some clarity around this, to realize that just give people time and space, it's so much better. So now at this point, if I have a sense on a consultation that somebody is wavering in any way, maybe it might be a big ticket and they're kind of shocked by it, but they do want to move forward, I'll follow up a couple of times, but I'll give them some breaks in there. So like, even I'm kind of breaking some best practices of things I've seen online, where it's like, I'll meet with somebody, give them a couple days to think about it. I'm actually giving maybe closer to a week to circle back and see how where they're feeling. Because if a week later goes by and they're really interested and they want to move forward, then that's somebody that I know who's going to give their all in a session. So again, give people the time that they need. Get rid of distractions. One of the hardest things about being an entrepreneur is that you can easily be distracted. I'm a person who I consider myself to be an idea machine. I'm always coming up with ideas. I will see something and I want to change that and perfect that or add that into my business. And it's been very hard not to want to chase everything. And so when there's distractions, and by that I mean people come to me in this past year with like business ideas that they want to partner on. That's been a big one. Or there's maybe a new service that I'm like, oh, I saw somebody doing this. Maybe I should do this too. Those are two that come to mind. I have to be very careful and ultimately sometimes say no. Getting rid of distractions, minimizing even talking to certain people as much as I used to talk to is a distraction. I've been really focused on basic paper, writing down a list, and not doing anything else until that list is done. Distractions. They pull you away from what's important and what's going to ultimately help you move forward, both in life and in business. Get rid of them. You can chase distractions when all you got is a blank slate. And that, I mean, you've got no work on your plate. Get rid of distractions. Focus. In February, I went to an event in Las Vegas. Tony Robbins spoke at that event, and it was an absolute game changer for me. I go there with a client to, record content of him, to get some ideas as we're trying to help him grow his business. As I'm sitting in the session and I'm listening to Tony Robbins speak, he kept talking about focus and that single focus. And it dawned on me how up to that point, I was a little all over the place. I used to refer to myself as the all-in solopreneur. And that was where I would have multiple income streams. I'd be focused on hiring with my Hire For Me business. I would do consulting. I would do coaching. I would do content creation. I would do speaking. I would do poker. And I feel like I'm probably missing something. So I would do all these different income streams. And then I started to realize after that session, I need to focus on one thing because I'm spreading myself across all these different revenue streams, which is sure, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here kind of protects you, which is important to diversify. But when I'm so scattered in terms of my focus, I'm not really great at any one thing. If I want to be great at something, I need to, let's use my words, go all in. So I decided I'm going to go all in on batch creating content. I'm not going to focus on hiring. As a result, all of 2024 at this point, I've not brought in a single dollar on the Hire For Me business. So I've got that corporation, but I've not bringing in any money at all with it. On the consulting side, I did a couple sessions here and there, but for the most part, I would say for the last, since February/March, I haven't done any consulting. Coaching. I don't really focus on coaching much at all, other than the fact that I've got some long-term clients that I'm still working with. Other than that, I'm not trying to take on new clients when it comes to coaching. Poker, I will still continue to do, but I'm not looking at it as a full-on income stream at this point. It's just, again, focusing on all-in content and batch recording videos. I'm focused, I'm dialed in, I'm staying free of distractions, and I'm better off for it. Focus has been the key theme for this year, I think, since that event. It's going to carry me forward, moving forward. I honestly believe it is probably one of the most important words. I talk a lot about like these 3 F words, like freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment. I'm going to add a 4th one and say focus. Focus is what's going to unlock all 3 of those words for me moving forward. Charge what you're worth. This was one that was probably a long time coming, I would say. I, to this day, actually still too, am not fully across all clients charging exactly what I should be charging. I know that videography in general is a higher ticket item. Now, there are companies that are doing probably less videos than me and less quality than me, charging way more. For whatever reason, they're getting those people. I have been undercharging, and as a result, going through some painful lessons, I think, over the course of this past year when it comes to the stuff that I do. Now, I've had to adjust prices, and for some clients, when their year is up, we're going to probably be talking through negotiation to adjust. That's hard because, again, I wasn't charging what I was worth. Moving forward, I've been so much better about quoting it, and some people can afford it and if some people can't, that's okay too, because I'm not going to focus on the clients that are the super low ticket ones, because those are probably not my clients. Those are not the ones who are going to be invested to go all in. And so charging what you're worth is critical. And it's a lesson I think that I had to learn the hard way, but I'm glad that I learned it. This one might seem obvious, but video is by far the best medium. I found that if I looked at this last year and how I've performed and ultimately the clients that I support performed, anything that we did that was video related was able to better share our message of who we are and what we do and why we do it. It is the best way to convey, I think, anything when it comes to business. So more businesses need to do it. And I've been super thrilled and excited that I've been able to help more companies in this last year. It's been absolutely a game changer to go all in on video and to help others realize the power of it. All right, here we are. Last one. This is the final lesson that I think that I really have learned. And this might sound like a cheesy lesson to have learned, but it is fully go all in. When you think about it, this past year of documenting my life has been great from a variety of perspectives, but also been incredibly hard. It is difficult to record yourself every single day, 365 days a year. Here's the thing. I have released 52 episodes, weekly episodes of Pushing 40. There's one more to come as we go to Las Vegas. And I have learned a lot about myself. And I have learned a lot about business. I've learned a lot about health. I've learned about how to be a better human and husband. And I think that there's still opportunities to improve in all areas noted. What I've come to realize, though, about going all in is that this whole effort to kind of, I think, improve and better myself by the time I hit 40 was about going all in. It was hard to document my life. And I know that it didn't go how I envisioned it fully, because I had expected probably more people to see this content than probably have. But I wanted to go all in on it. I wanted to see, could I do it? Could I do the challenge of recording every single day for a year? And I did. I went all in. I recorded weekly episodes for YouTube. I was able to record more footage, that's stuff that's never even been shown, that I ultimately have in the background. I was able to pump out more videos than ever before. I went all in this year, right? Like the year before, I quit working as a CEO for a company to create my own company, and, had marginal success with it. And after doing that for, let's call that a year, I had decided for this next year, really, because I map a lot around my birthdays, I wanted to create another company. And the company I wanted to create was all in content. Like, I had already had the idea and everything. I just never turned it into reality. So, like, me going all in and recording myself led to me having, let's call it like one of the best years of my life, in all honesty. Went to Mexico for 3 weeks. I've been to Las Vegas a couple of times. I've won some tournaments, made some money gambling. More importantly, I've made some real good connections. I've met new people. I've had some customers I've been able to help them with growing their business, producing thousands of videos. I've been able to create awesome partnerships, which is going to help us moving forward. been able to really, I think, level up in so many different ways this past year. And it's because I went all in. I went all in on video. I went all in being honest and real and vulnerable. There were times where some of my weekly episodes probably sucked a little bit too, right? Because they weren't too exciting. But I had to put myself out there. It gave me the appreciation for how hard it is to vlog. I am looking forward to taking a break, in all honesty, as well. Because again, it has been a challenge, but I had to go through that challenge. To have one full year of documenting your life, I don't think many people would actually do it. I think it's very rare for somebody to do it. 365 days of recording myself. I've leveled up from terms of content, styling, the editing, everything that goes into it. And it has been hard, but it is something that I am so glad that I did. I'm glad that I fully went all in on it. And that the next time I do, I will make tweaks and adjustments of how I'm going to do it. But I'm so glad that I did this journey. And for those who are regularly watching, I want to say thank you. I know that sometimes, I came across negative early on. There was times where I probably didn't make a lot of sense. Sometimes the videos themselves were a little wild, especially as I'm walking and talking or doing some of those driving videos. For some people, this was a great way for them to kind of keep up on what's going on with me. So I just want to say thank you to anyone who is watching this now, who's ever watched any of these episodes, who've kind of been part of this journey. Hitting 40 for some people is a very emotional time. They struggle with it. To me, my whole life, I have looked forward to growing up. Now that I am, let's say, being 40, it is one of those things where it's like, I wish I had more time, in the sense that I wish that I didn't want to grow up as fast as I did. And so I look at this next decade as an opportunity to be my best self and really enhance the skills that I've learned over this past year. Because this past year, I think I've learned more than any other year in my life. And I want to continue to have this appetite to learn, and that'll help me earn in all aspects of my life. And as I do this, hopefully have more fun along the way too. So, speaking of fun, again, this is the end of this week's episode here. We're going to Vegas. We're actually flying to Vegas on Sunday, and we're there till Friday. We got a lot of stuff planned. We're going to capture that vlog style. Then we'll have that as the true final episode of Pushing 40, so stay tuned for that. Again, thank you. Hopefully you got some value from some of these lessons here today.